Captain Jennifer Martinez stared at the massive holographic display dominating the bridge of the Boatface VII, wondering if this was how humanity's first contact with advanced alien civilization would end, because of her therapy dog's anxiety issues. "Bentley, sweetie, what did the astronaut say when he crashed into the moon?" She whispered to the golden retriever hiding under her command chair. The dog's tail wagged slightly at her voice. "He said he apologizes." A small whimper escaped Bentley, but his tail wagged faster. Jennifer didn't notice that her communication system was still active from the last transmission. The towering Imperial vessel looming before them, a sleek construct of dark metal and pulsing energy fields, had spent the last 10 minutes broadcasting increasingly elaborate threats in perfect English. Their linguistic systems had apparently been studying Earth's transmissions for months. "Your primitive vessel has breached the sovereign territory of the galactic hegemony," the alien commander's voice boomed through the bridge speakers. "Prepare for immediate inspection and categorization. Resistance will result in atomic restructuring of your hull." "Hey Bentley, why don't astronauts trust atoms?" Jennifer scratched behind her dog's ears, still oblivious to her hot mic. "Because they make up everything." The silence from the Imperial vessel stretched for an uncomfortably long moment. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez, the communications officer, was frantically trying to get her captain's attention without speaking. Her hands were making increasingly elaborate gestures that looked like she was either trying to warn about the open channel or having a seizure. "Captain," the Imperial commander's voice returned, now carrying a note of uncertainty. "Our threat analysis systems detect that you are responding with some form of coded message. Explain the purpose of these rhythmic vocal patterns, accompanied by apparent nonsense scenarios." Jennifer finally noticed her crew's desperate signaling. Her eyes widened as she realized her jokes had been broadcasting to the alien vessel. "Well, in for a penny, in for a pound." "Oh, those weren't coded messages," she replied, straightening in her chair. "Those were jokes. You know humor. Here's another one. Why did the satellite cross the galaxy? To get to the other side." The Imperial vessel's energy readings fluctuated wildly. "Error. Error. Unable to process response within standard threat assessment protocols," the alien commander announced. "Detecting possible advanced psychological warfare technique. Beginning emergency diagnostic sequence." Jennifer watched in amazement as the massive warship's exterior lights began flickering erratically. Somewhere in their vast computer systems, artificial intelligence circuits were failing to compute the concept of dad jokes as anything other than an elaborate military strategy. "Should we perhaps attempt a more serious diplomatic approach?" Lieutenant Rodriguez suggested nervously. "Why?" Jennifer replied, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. "Hey, alien friends, what do you call a star that doesn't clean up after itself? A messier object." The Imperial ship's defense shield suddenly displayed a rainbow pattern of malfunctioning energy dispersal. "Critical system error." The alien commander's voice had risen several octaves. "Unknown attack vector detected. Unable to classify human response within known parameters of warfare, diplomacy, or trade negotiations." Bentley had finally emerged from under the chair, his tail wagging furiously as he sensed his human's amusement. Jennifer reached down to pet him, her confidence growing with each passing moment. "One last one," she broadcast. "What did the Space Corps say to the fusion reactor?" "Now that's what I call a light snack." The Imperial vessel's external lights shut down completely for 3 seconds before rebooting in a pattern that looked suspiciously like a loading screen. "Emergency protocols engaged," the alien commander announced, their voice now sounding distinctly frazzled. "Returning to Imperial space for immediate software update and tactical review. This encounter has been logged as classification level incomprehensible." As the massive ship turned and accelerated away, Jennifer looked around at her stunned bridge crew. "Well," she said, giving Bentley another pat, "I guess sometimes laughter really is the best medicine, or in this case, the best defense." Lieutenant Rodriguez was already drafting her report to Earth Command, wondering how exactly to explain that humanity's first contact with an advanced alien empire had been derailed by their captain's terrible sense of humor. "Anyone want to hear what the space janitor said when he jumped to light speed?" Jennifer asked brightly. The collective groan from her crew was answer enough, but Bentley's happy bark encouraged her to continue anyway. He said, "Time to clean up this mess here." Admiral Emily Thompson rubbed her temples as she reviewed the incident report from the Boatface VYI. Her flagship, the USB Stick, cruised through hyperspace toward the coordinates of the first contact site, its sleek hull gleaming against the twisted light of faster-than-light travel. "Let me get this straight," she addressed her senior staff. Captain Martinez averted potential conflict with an advanced alien civilization by telling dad jokes to her therapy dog. "Yes, Mom," Commander Jack Peterson confirmed, trying to maintain a straight face. The Imperial vessel's AI apparently suffered several logic failures trying to categorize the response. And now they think we're using some kind of advanced psychological warfare. Emily sighed, looking at the holographic display showing their approach vector. "Actually," Communications Director Michelle Foster interjected, "their latest diplomatic transmission categorized us as threat level, incomprehensible, possible reality vendors. They seem to think we've weaponized nonsense." The bridge crew fell silent as a massive Imperial diplomatic vessel materialized ahead of them. Its hull was covered in flowing script that probably declared its impressive titles and accomplishments. In comparison, the USB Stick's hull simply displayed its name in Comic Sans font, a detail that had seemed hilarious during the ship's christening, but now felt slightly inappropriate for first contact. "Incoming transmission," Michelle announced, her fingers dancing across her console. They're demanding to know if our ship's name is a declaration of war." "What?" Emily blinked. Their translation matrix is interpreting USB Stick as universal sovereignty breaker. They think it's either a threat or a very aggressive diplomatic stance. Emily took a deep breath. "Open a channel." The view screen filled with the image of Chief Protocol Officer Exilch of the Imperial Diplomatic Corps, a tall, elegant being with crystalline features and far too many eyes, all of which were currently narrowed in suspicion. "Greetings," Emily began diplomatically. "I assure you, our vessel's name is not a threat. It's actually a reference to an ancient Earth data storage device." "Unlikely," Exilch responded. "Our analysis of Earth transmissions indicates that your species demonstrates concerning irregularities in naming conventions. We have detected vessels designated as 'That's what she said,' and 404 ship not found. These must be sophisticated military codes." "They're just jokes," Emily explained, feeling a headache coming on. "Humans sometimes use humor in naming things." "Impossible. Our research indicates that military vessels must be named to inspire fear or respect. Your naming convention defies all logical parameters." Multiple screens behind Exilch displayed analyses of Earth ship names, with increasingly confused annotations. Just then, a small reconnaissance vessel dropped out of hyperspace nearby. Emily's heart sank as she recognized it. The definitely not a spy ship, commanded by Lieutenant Kevin O'Neill, one of Starfleet's best scouts and worst comedians. "New vessel detected," an Imperial officer announced. Its designation appears to be a denial of its obvious purpose. Exilch's crystalline features seem to ripple with distress. This is clearly an advanced form of psychological manipulation. No species would deliberately undermine their own tactical advantage through transparent deception unless what? Emily asked, genuinely curious. Unless the transparency itself is the deception. Exilch declared, multiple eyes widening in revelation. "You're operating on levels of strategic complexity that our protocols cannot process. This requires immediate consultation with the Imperial High Command." As the Imperial vessel retreated in apparent confusion, Emily turned to her crew. "Send a message to all Earth vessels in this sector. Tell them to." She paused, Considering the absurdity of her next words, tell them to keep their ship names as ridiculous as possible. Apparently, it's our best defense. Already on it, Michelle replied, trying to suppress a grin. The sandwich maker and the pretty fly for a Wi-Fi are standing by as reinforcements. Emily settled back in her command chair, wondering how she would explain to Earth Command that humanity's integration into galactic society was being simultaneously helped and hindered by their collective sense of humor. At least the paperwork would be entertaining. "Ma'am," Jack reported, "the Imperial Diplomatic Database has just categorized Earth vessels under Eldritch nomenclature. Approach with caution." "Perfect," Emily muttered. "Absolutely perfect." Major James Williams stood before the assembled crew of the Control-Alt-Elite, Earth's most advanced stealth vessel, trying to maintain his military bearing while delivering what had to be the strangest briefing in human military history. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, gesturing to the holographic display behind him, "welcome to Operation Dad Joke. Our mission is simple. We're going to save humanity through the power of terrible humor." The briefing room erupted in a mixture of groans and laughter. Lieutenant Jessica Barnes, his tactical officer, raised her hand. "Sir, are you saying we're literally going to fight an alien empire with puns?" "Exactly, Lieutenant." James clicked to the next slide, showing an analysis of Imperial neural patterns. "Our research teams have made a fascinating discovery. The Empire's species never developed the ability to understand sarcasm or irony. Their communication is entirely literal." The display showed a comparison between human and Imperial brain scans during exposure to humor. The difference was striking. Human brains lit up like Christmas trees, while Imperial brains showed patterns consistent with severe confusion and stress. Their entire military doctrine is based on intimidation through absolute seriousness, James continued. "They literally can't process the concept of not taking yourself seriously. It's like trying to explain water to a fish, except the fish gets a headache and needs to reboot." Commander Rachel Murphy, his second in command, leaned forward. "So that's why they're having such trouble with our ship names. Because they can't process that we're being deliberately silly." "Precisely." James switched to another slide showing Imperial communication protocols. "They're convinced it's all elaborate military code. Their entire intelligence division is working overtime trying to decode the hidden meaning behind the sandwich maker's designation." "What's our strategy, sir?" asked Chief Engineer Mike Davidson, who had once suggested renaming the ship's engines Zoom boxes in all official documentation. James grinned. "We're going to lean into it. Hard. Our analysts believe we can literally crash their tactical prediction software by being aggressively whimsical. They'll be looking for patterns that don't exist, trying to decode messages that are literally just us being us." The holographic display showed their planned route through Imperial space. The Control-Alt-Elite would shadow Imperial patrols, broadcasting what appeared to be coded messages, but were actually just increasingly ridiculous jokes and memes. "Sir," Lieutenant Barnes interjected, "won't they eventually figure out we're just messing with them?" "That's the beauty of it," James replied. "They literally can't. Their cultural development never included the concept of doing something purely for amusement. Every time they convince themselves they've understood our true purpose, we'll do something even more ridiculous that sends them back to square one." He clicked to the final slide, which simply displayed a list of the worst dad jokes in human history. "These are now classified as strategic assets. Learn them, love them, deploy them with extreme prejudice." Question. Commander Murphy raised her hand. "What do we do if they actually attack?" "Then we execute Protocol Rubber Chicken," James said with complete seriousness. "We've loaded our torpedo tubes with glitter bombs and programmed our electronic warfare suite to replace their command protocols with cat memes." The crew stared at him, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. "This is now officially our tactical doctrine," he confirmed. "Earth Command has designated it Strategic Nonsense Deployment. The Imperial military literally cannot adapt to an enemy that refuses to take warfare seriously. As if to prove his point, the ship's AI announced an incoming Imperial patrol. James smiled and pressed a button on his console. The Imperial vessels were immediately greeted with a transmission of their ship's new battle cry. The ancient Earth song, "Never Gonna Give You Up." "Ladies and gentlemen," James announced as the Imperial ship's sensors went haywire trying to decode the supposed hidden message in Rick Astley's lyrics. "Welcome to the future of warfare. Remember, if anyone asks, this is all part of an incredibly sophisticated psychological operation." The crew watched as the Imperial patrol began broadcasting increasingly desperate requests for clarification about the strategic significance of being Rick-rolled. "Sir," Lieutenant Barnes reported, struggling to maintain her composure, "they're now asking if Rick Astley, his Earth's supreme military commander." "Tell them that's classified," James replied with a wink. "Very, very classified." Lieutenant Amanda Cooper hunched over her research terminal aboard the science vessel Hypothesis This, surrounded by holographic displays showing brain scan data from Imperial officers. As the ship's leading xenobiologist, she had noticed something extraordinary in the medical data collected during recent diplomatic encounters. "Computer, replay observation log Delta 7, she commanded, adjusting her glasses. The hologram showed a young Imperial officer trying to maintain composure during a meeting with Earth representatives. The Imperial, designated as Subject 47, had been present during the now infamous rubber duck incident, where Captain Martinez had explained Earth's ancient tradition of bathroom waterfowl to increasingly bewildered Imperial diplomats. "Freeze frame," Amanda called out. "Enhance neural pattern analysis." The display zoomed in on the officer's brain activity. There it was again, a distinct pattern she'd never seen before in Imperial neurological readings. A small cluster of neurons firing in a way that looked suspiciously like Dr. Reynolds. She called out to her research partner. "I need you to verify something." Mark Reynolds wandered over, coffee mug in hand, its side proudly displaying "Trust me, I'm a doctor of xenobiology." He peered at the display. "Is that what I think it is?" "If you think it's the development of a sense of humor, then yes," Amanda replied excitedly. "Look at this sequence." When Captain Martinez made the duck noise, this region lit up exactly like a human brain experiencing amusement. "But that's impossible," Mark protested. "Imperial physiology doesn't have the neural structures for processing humor. Their entire civilization developed without it." "Didn't have them," Amanda corrected, pulling up comparative scans. "Look at these readings from 6 months ago versus now. Their brains are actually developing new neural pathways. Exposure to human humor is literally rewiring their minds." The implications were staggering. Their research vessel had been tracking Imperial responses to human interaction, but nobody had expected this level of neurological adaptation. "Computer, access Imperial communication logs, filter for anomalous behavior patterns," Amanda requested. The AI quickly compiled a list that made both scientists' eyes widen. An Imperial cadet named their personal shuttle, the Flying Lecture. Mark read incredulously. "And there's a report here about an Imperial guard who attempted to lighten the mood during an inspection by saying, 'These aren't the droids we're looking for.'" "They're learning," Amanda whispered, "not just mimicking, but actually developing the capacity to understand and create humor. It's like their brains are evolving in real time through exposure to human ridiculousness." The ship's intercom crackled. "Lieutenant Cooper, incoming transmission from Imperial Science Vessel Designate." The communications officer paused. "Did I read this right? They're calling themselves the Pursuit of Hypothetical Hilarity." Amanda and Mark exchanged glances. "Put them through," she replied. The screen filled with the image of an Imperial scientist, their crystalline features arranged in what appeared to be an attempt at a smile. "Greetings, Earth researchers. We wish to discuss your species. How do you say? Knock-knock protocols." "This is unprecedented," Mark muttered, frantically taking notes. They're actively seeking to understand humor. Amanda stepped forward. We'd be happy to explain knock-knock jokes. But first, I have to ask, did you really rename your ship? Affirmative, the Imperial scientist replied. We found your vessel's name, hypothesis, this to be. They consulted a notepad. Totally rad. We wish to attempt similar designation humor. And how did High Command respond to this change? Amanda asked carefully. They have declared a quarantine and classified humor as a dangerous contagion, the scientist answered. However, we have already compiled significant evidence that exposure to humor increases crew efficiency and morale by 42.7%. They paused before adding, that's what she said. They're definitely evolving. Mark commented, trying not to laugh, though their timing needs work. Amanda began composing her report, titled, Why Did the Imperial Cross the Galaxy? She knew it would probably cause panic among Imperial leadership, but that just made it funnier. As she wrote, she could hear the Imperial scientist in the background asking their crew if they wanted to hear a joke about antimatter, but they shouldn't worry because it wouldn't matter anyway. The Imperial display of absolute power was not going according to plan. Captain Michael O'Brien watched from the bridge of the Sir Spacington II. The Lightning as 3,000 Imperial warships attempted to maintain their precisely calculated formation. The key word being attempted. Sir, his tactical officer, Lieutenant Sandra Hayes, reported with admirable restraint. The Imperial flagship is demanding to know if our request to join their formation was, and I quote, a joke or a next-level psychological attack. Michael maintained his perfectly straight face, a skill that had made him legendary in poker nights across the fleet. Send them our congratulations on their excellent question and request permission to demonstrate our sick moves. The Imperial Formation, a massive three-dimensional geometric pattern designed to showcase their military precision, rippled with uncertainty. Several ships wobbled noticeably as their commanders attempted to process the response. They're asking for clarification on sick moves, Sandra reported, her shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Their medical officers are concerned about contamination protocols. Send them the choreography we prepared, Michael ordered, specifically the one set to Space Jam. The massive holographic displays surrounding the Imperial ceremony suddenly lit up with the carefully planned dance routine that Michael's crew had spent weeks perfecting. The Sir Spacington II began executing perfect barrel rolls in time with the music, its movements somehow managing to appear both precisely calculated and utterly ridiculous. Sir, Communications Officer Derek Chen called out, I'm detecting unusual transmissions from several Imperial vessels. They appear to be giggling. The giggling proved contagious. 3 Imperial destroyers broke formation as their crews lost their battle with composure. The ships drifted into a pattern that looked suspiciously like they were trying to copy the Sir Spacington's dance moves. Captain, Sandra interjected, the Imperial flagship, harbinger of inevitable doom, is. She double-checked her readings, requesting the song's download link for tactical analysis purposes. Michael nodded solemnly. Send them our entire playlist. Label it Classified Earth Battle Rhythms. The ceremony descended further into chaos as more Imperial ships began attempting to dance. Their movements were stiff and formal at first, like teenagers at their first school dance, but growing more confident by the minute. Breaking news from our intelligence network, Derek reported. A junior Imperial officer has submitted paperwork to rename their vessel Hu Pu Mitsafis. The bureaucratic processing system has crashed trying to classify it. Michael allowed himself a small smile. And how's our friend Commander Zilxus doing? The view screen showed the Imperial commander who had been assigned to study human humor as a potential weapon. The once stern officer was now wearing what appeared to be a novelty tie over their ceremonial armor and had programmed their ship's external lights to flash in rainbow patterns. Commander Zilxus has declared their ship a no-frowning zone and is requiring all reports to include at least one joke, Sandra reported. Their latest transmission ends with, "Why did the photon torpedo go to the doctor?" because it wasn't feeling light. "Sir," Derek interrupted, "the Imperial High Command is demanding we cease our advanced psychological warfare immediately. They're claiming we're violating at least 15 different military protocols. Send them our official response," Michael ordered. The crew watched as their carefully crafted message was transmitted. A simple text reading, /_2_/, followed by a request to perform a synchronized fleet maneuver they had dubbed the Macarena Gambit. Multiple Imperial ships are now requesting permission from their command to, and I quote, "join the party," Sandra announced. The Imperial Admiral appears to be having an existential crisis. The ceremony reached its breaking point when an Imperial cadet, overcome with the spirit of the moment, broadcast a ship-wide announcement. "Hey, why don't computers like Imperial officers? Because they're too command line." The resulting wave of laughter crashed through the Imperial fleet's communication channels, causing their formation to dissolve completely as ships drifted out of position. Their crews too busy explaining the concept of puns to their confused colleagues to maintain proper military bearing. "Mission accomplished," Michael declared, still maintaining his poker face even as his crew celebrated around him. "Send word to Earth Command. Operation Party Crasher was a complete success. The Empire's ceremonial display has been upgraded to a dance party." As the Imperial fleet attempted to restore order while simultaneously arguing about playlist selections, Michael allowed himself a quiet chuckle. Sometimes the best way to break an iron mask was to make it laugh. Dr. Robert Anderson stood before the hastily assembled Department of Human Psychological Warfare countermeasures, surrounded by holographic displays showing spreading instances of humor throughout the Imperial fleet. The former Earth psychologist had been recruited by the Empire to help them understand and combat the human threat, though he was beginning to suspect he'd made a terrible career choice. "As you can see," he gestured to a chart showing exponential growth in joke-related incidents, "the situation has become critical. Just yesterday, an Imperial battlecruiser commander responded to a routine status check with 'all your base are belong to us.'" The assembled Imperial scientists shifted uncomfortably in their seats. One raised a crystalline appendage. "Dr. Anderson, our analysis suggests this reference is over 2 centuries old. Why would they deploy such an outdated mimetic weapon?" "That's exactly what makes it powerful," Robert explained, pinching the bridge of his nose. "They're using the very outdatedness of the reference as part of the joke. It's funny because it's not funny." The room erupted in confused murmuring. Another scientist spoke up. "But if it's not funny, how can it be funny? This violates basic logic." "Welcome to my nightmare," Robert muttered. He pulled up another display showing their latest countermeasure attempt. "Now, our research team has developed what we believe to be a perfectly crafted joke based on quantum physics. We'll deploy it during the next encounter with human ships." The hologram showed their carefully constructed joke. Why did the quantum physicist get fired from the dairy farm? Because he kept collapsing the wave function before the milk could properly aggregate into a superposition of states. The joke contains precise scientific terminology, one Imperial analyst noted approvingly. "Surely this will demonstrate our mastery of human humor protocols." 3 hours later, Robert stared in disbelief at the incoming transmission. Their quantum physics joke had not only failed to intimidate the humans, it had won the prestigious Galactic Comedy Award for Best Unintentionally Hilarious Attempt at Humor. "They're saying," his assistant reported, "that our joke was so beautifully awkward that it transcended regular humor and became art. We've been invited to perform at next month's comedy festival." Robert collapsed into his chair, watching as Imperial ships across the sector began attempting to create their own science jokes. The results were painfully adorable, like watching puppies try to do calculus. "Sir," his assistant interrupted his existential crisis, "we're receiving reports that Imperial crews are now attempting to name their ships using what they believe to be human naming conventions." The list scrolled across his screen. The previously serious vessel. Definitely a scary warship. Lol Unit 7. The Imperial McImperialfus. It's spreading faster than we can contain it, Robert observed, a strange sense of pride mixing with his professional concern. The Empire's entire command structure is being undermined by dad jokes and silly names. Just then, the door burst open. An Imperial officer rushed in, barely containing their excitement. Dr. Anderson, I've developed what humans call a knock-knock joke. Would you like to hear it? Robert knew he should say no. He should maintain professional distance. He should. Go ahead, he sighed. Knock knock. Who's there? The Imperial Fleet. The Imperial Fleet who? The Imperial Fleet is experiencing technical difficulties due to excessive laughter. Get it? The room fell silent. Then, from somewhere in the back, an Imperial scientist began making an unusual sound, something between a chime and a giggle. It spread through the room like a wave, crystalline features lighting up with newfound joy. Robert turned to his computer and began typing his final report to Imperial High Command. We have become the very thing we sought to destroy. And honestly, I'm okay with that. P.S. Why did the Imperial scientists bring a ladder to the library? Because they were looking for a higher understanding. I made that one up myself. As he sent the report, he could hear laughter echoing through the formerly austere Imperial halls. The sound of barriers breaking, of joy spreading, of an entire civilization discovering something they never knew they were missing. Well, he announced to his team, if you can't beat them, join them. Who wants to help me rename our research facility the Department of Totally Serious Business We Promise? The resulting chorus of crystalline laughter was all the answer he needed. Captain Kelly Richardson of the diplomatic vessel, that's what she said, faced down the massive superweapon looming before her ship. The ultimate annihilator stretched across space like a metal leviathan, its weapon ports glowing with enough energy to vaporize a small moon. Ma'am, First Officer David Collins reported, they're demanding our immediate surrender and threatening to demonstrate their absolute power if we refuse. Kelly leaned back in her captain's chair, a mischievous glint in her eye. Send them the PowerPoint presentation. The one titled 10 Reasons Why Your Superweapon is Compensating for Something, David asked, trying to maintain his professional demeanor. That's the one. Make sure to include the animated sparkle effects. The bridge crew watched as their carefully crafted presentation began broadcasting to the ultimate annihilator. Slide 1 featured a comparison chart between the superweapon and various oversized vehicles, complete with helpful arrows and Comic Sans font. They're responding, Communications Officer Laura Martinez announced. The weapons commander seems confused by our choice of font. Perfect. Initiate Phase 2, Kelly ordered. Launch the rubber ducks. Outside the ship, hundreds of small yellow objects emerged from the launch tubes. Each rubber duck was equipped with a tiny propulsion system and speakers playing DuckTales theme music. They formed a perfect choreographed dance formation in front of the superweapon. Ma'am, Security Chief James Wilson called out, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the ultimate annihilator. Several crew members appear to be laughing. Kelly nodded. They've been exposed to human humor for months now. Their resistance is weakening. Time for the killing blow. Send them the meme package. The transmission began, a carefully curated collection of classic Earth memes, starting with One Does Not Simply Fire the Ultimate Annihilator, and building up to an elaborate loss edit featuring the superweapon's own schematics. Captain, Laura interrupted, we're receiving multiple transmissions from within the Ultimate Annihilator. The crew is... They're arguing about whether Bad Luck Brian or Doge is the superior classical meme. The massive weapon's energy readings fluctuated as internal discipline broke down. Reports flooded in of crew members creating their own memes about their commander's serious expression, sharing them through the ship's internal communication network. Their weapon systems are powering down, James reported. Several sections of the crew have declared themselves here for the memes, not the violence. Kelly stood up, straightening her uniform. Open a channel to their commander. The view screen activated to show the Ultimate Annihilator's bridge, where chaos reigned. The commander sat in their chair, surrounded by officers who were trying desperately not to laugh at something on their datapads. "This is Captain Richardson," Kelly announced. "I couldn't help but notice your superweapon's name could use some work. Have you considered something more approachable? Maybe the Big Friendly Giant, or Shooty McBoomface?" The commander's eye twitched. "This is psychological warfare of the highest order. Our weapon was designed to instill fear. How's that working out for you?" Kelly asked innocently, as another wave of rubber ducks performed a synchronized swimming routine past their viewport. But we." The commander looked around at their giggling crew. "This isn't how warfare is supposed to work." "Welcome to Earth's secret weapon, Commander. The ability to not take ourselves too seriously." Kelly grinned. "Now, would you like to see my collection of cat videos? I've got one of a kitten trying to catch a laser pointer that's absolutely adorable." The command deck of the Ultimate Annihilator erupted in cheers. Officers who had spent years maintaining stern expressions were suddenly requesting cute animal footage with the enthusiasm of children at a birthday party. "Captain," David whispered, "their crew is voting to rename the weapon the Ultimate Huginator and repurpose it as a mobile space carnival." Kelly watched as the galaxy's most powerful superweapon began broadcasting "Never Gonna Give You Up" from its external speakers, its crew too busy sharing funny videos to remember they were supposed to be terrifying. "Mission accomplished," she declared. "Send word to Earth Command. The Ultimate Annihilator has been defeated by the ultimate weapon, the human ability to find humor in anything, even certain doom." As if to prove her point, the superweapon's crew had begun organizing an impromptu talent show, with the main cannon repurposed as a spotlight. Technical Sergeant Lisa Parker sat in her command center aboard the Earth vessel, definitely not a hacker ship, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Empire's last stronghold. Her fingers danced across the keyboard as she prepared to launch the final phase of humanity's most audacious plan yet. "All systems ready," she announced to the assembled fleet commanders on her view screen. "Operation Knock Knock is go." Remember, Admiral Emily Thompson's image reminded them, "We're not here to destroy the Empire. We're here to make them laugh." Lisa nodded and initiated the sequence. Across the Imperial network, every single command protocol began transforming. Battle orders became knock-knock jokes. Security alerts turned into pun cascades. Even the emergency broadcast system started playing the Imperial March, performed entirely by rubber chickens. "Ma'am," her assistant, Brian Reynolds, reported, "the Imperial flagship is attempting to counter-hack us. They're sending us cat memes." Lisa grinned. "Looks like some of them are already on our side. Send them back. The icon has Empire." Collection. The final battle for the galaxy wasn't fought with weapons but with wit. As Lisa's programs spread through the Imperial network, more and more ships began showing signs of the humor infection. The Imperial Academy's training manuals were mysteriously updated to include a chapter on advanced mimetic warfare and "Incoming transmission from the Imperial High Command bunker," Brian announced. "They're demanding we cease our attack immediately," in the form of an interpretive dance routine. On the main screen, Imperial officials performed what appeared to be a dramatically choreographed plea for seriousness, complete with jazz hands. The effect was somewhat undermined by several officers in the background clearly trying not to laugh. "Send in the finishing move," Lisa ordered. "Execute Protocol Rubber Duck Dynasty." Across every Imperial screen, terminal, and holographic display, thousands of small yellow ducks appeared, each wearing tiny versions of formal Imperial regalia. They began performing a synchronized dance to a remix of classical Imperial anthems, mixed with Earth pop songs. The Empire's last holdouts didn't stand a chance. "Reports coming in," Brian read off his screen. "The Imperial Military Academy has renamed itself the School of Rock, and also military stuff. The High Command ceremonial march has been replaced with the chicken dance, and the Imperial crown jewels have been decorated with googly eyes. Lisa watched as the revolution of joy spread across the galaxy. Ships that had once threatened planets with destruction were now hosting intergalactic comedy festivals. The Imperial Palace announced its new role as the galaxy's biggest comedy club. Breaking news, Brian interrupted. The Imperial Senate is voting on a new constitution. They're requiring all official documents to include at least one pun, and diplomatic meetings must begin with a joke exchange. The main screen showed the historic moment as the Imperial High Chancellor, wearing a novelty, world's best boss crown, signed the new constitution. Their ceremonial pen had been replaced with one that made squeaking noises. "We, the newly amused peoples of the galaxy," they read aloud, "in order to form a more perfect union of hilarity, establish justice with joy, ensure domestic tranquility through laughter." Lisa's team watched as centuries of rigid imperial protocol melted away. The new government immediately established a department of silly walks and appointed a minister of memes. "Final report from Earth Command," Ryan announced. "Operation Laugh Track is officially complete. Humanity has been appointed as the galaxy's official diplomatic jesters, a position we're taking very seriously by not taking it seriously at all." Lisa looked at her screens one last time, watching as Imperial citizens discovered the joy of rubber chicken fights and pun competitions. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly the point. "You know what the best part is?" she asked Brian, as they prepared to head home. "What's that?" "The history books will have to record that the greatest empire in the galaxy was defeated by dad jokes and rubber ducks. That might be the funniest joke of all." As if to prove her point, the Imperial flagship sent one final transmission, a perfectly executed rickroll, followed by GGEZ in official Imperial font. Humanity had won not through force or fear, but by teaching an entire civilization how to laugh. And somewhere in the vastness of space, Captain Martinez's therapy dog Bentley wagged his tail, knowing he had played his part in starting it all with a simple, "Why did the astronaut break up with the star?" "Because she needed space."